I love cold outreach, and if that makes me a psychopath, then so be it. I'm a psychopath. But most Muslim entrepreneurs hate cold outreach, and I don't blame you if you hate it because it's brain dead. It's boring. You're doing the same thing again and again and again, and sometimes you don't even get the results that you want from it. But after doing 15,000 plus cold calls and sending tens of thousands of DMs, close to 100,000, I'm pretty sure soon, I found a two-step formula to actually make outreach fun. And because I find outreach fun, I'm able to book more meetings, close more deals, and therefore make more money than my competitors. So if you want to make outreach fun so that at the end of the day you can make more money to support your family, take care of your mom, to do hajj, whatever it is that your goals are, then let's jump into step number one. Step number one is to kind of rewire your beliefs. Yes, don't worry, I'm just not going to make this like a 40-minute mindset video, but I hated outreach, but I knew I needed to do it. I hated it, but I knew I needed to do it. And every single day I would procrastinate to do outreach. In fact, I remember one day I had a whole plan about how I was going to cold call for 3 hours. I get up at 9 a.m. I'm getting ready to cold call. And then I think to myself, I'm going to watch one more YouTube video about cold calling. Just one. I need to just make sure my script is all good. I need to make sure I'm getting hyped up, my tonality is all good. Those 3 hours ended up going by. And at the time I worked a 9-to-5 job, so if those 3 hours are gone, they're gone. I've got to go make my way to work now. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror when I got back home to pray Isha and after I did wudu, and I thought to myself, there is no way my business is going to grow if I continue doing this. I either find a different way that isn't outreach, and I looked at all the different ways that I've researched. None of them I could really afford time-wise, but also just money-wise. And I remember looking to my left and thinking to myself, oh, I could just do the outreach. But it's so boring and I hate it. And I was like, there has to be a way to make this fun. There just has to be a way to make outreach fun. And I realized at some point, and I remember that I was writing down in my journal, like, why do I not outreach? Like, I was trying to really figure it out. Why do I not outreach? And I realized the reason I hated cold calling was because I remember when I was 12 years old, my mum picked up the phone and somebody was cold calling her. And my mum was getting really angry. She's like, don't call me again. Yeah, ableh, yeah? Why are you calling me? I don't even have a car. Why do you think I need car insurance? And because I associated cold callers with people that my mum disliked, I thought that if I was cold calling, that people would dislike me and that my mum would dislike me. And then that's when I had the epiphany and I realized, I don't believe that cold calling works. I don't believe that people actually want to pick up the phone and speak to me. I don't believe that people will buy from me when I cold call them. I don't believe that cold calling is good. I believe it's scammy. Everyone I know who cold calls is a scammer. I didn't believe in cold calling at all. And guess what happens? Like, let's say you're playing a video game. And if you believe that if you killed somebody in that video game, let's say you're playing Call of Duty, right? If you kill that person, by the way, there's a little flex. Back in when I used to play Call of Duty in Modern Warfare, I had Damascus. So I grinded all of that, ended up being for nothing. If you don't know what Damascus is, by the way, it's like you get skins on guns in Call of Duty, and it's like the hardest one to get. It's like the longest one to get. Anyway, rant aside in regards to COD. Imagine if you killed someone in Call of Duty, but because you killed them in the game, you end up killing them in real life. And if you believe that you killed them in real life, would the game be fun? No, it'd be flipping stressful because all of a sudden it stops being harmless and all of a sudden it harms you and somebody else. Now, your beliefs end up harming you or somebody else. That's why we kind of have these strong beliefs. It's like, well, I believe this is right and this is wrong. Why is it right and wrong? Well, primarily because if it's right, then it's a good thing. It doesn't harm anybody. But if it's wrong, it's because it harms me or it harms somebody else. And I believe that cold calling would literally harm me in my identity because I didn't want to associate myself with being a cold caller and those scammers, but also harmed my prospects because they didn't want to pick up the phone. And I was scared that they'd yell at me. So before even picking up the phone, I was scared of being rejected. And with cold DMs, with cold email, it was basically the same thing because when I received them myself, when I received cold emails, they're crap, they're annoying, I just delete them. When I received cold DMs, there'd be big paragraphs I don't want to even listen to. So I had all these beliefs stacked on top of each other that just said to me, don't do the outreach. How are you going to blame me for not doing outreach? I don't blame you for doing outreach if you have the beliefs, by the way. So the first thing I decided to do, I remember when I had that epiphany, right, and I told you I was in the mirror and I was like, oh, this, and I was journaling down and I was like, I need to change the way I think about these things. If you've never listened to me talk about beliefs before, I've created a little step-by-step formula now, alhamdulillah, that works very, very well for me and other people. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was testing it through. I ended up assuming that people, I literally wrote it, by the way. I wrote it on a piece of paper, similar to what you see behind me. Like I wrote it on a piece of paper, imagine this. I wrote it on a piece of paper and it said, my prospects love to be cold called by me. Not by everybody else, but by me. They love to be cold called by me. And I would read that to myself every single day. And I would assume it was true. I'd assume it was true. And I'd act as if it was true. So when I picked up the phone, I was excited to speak to people because they're excited to speak to me. And then I associated those positive responses that I got, I associated those positive conversations that I got with people with that belief that prospects love to be cold called by me. And I still remember to this day, his name is Liam. I ended up meeting him in person. He was one of my first clients when I had my agency. And I remember speaking to him and he was really excited to be cold called. I kid you not. This man was actually excited to be cold called. He's like, oh, dude, I'm so grateful that you called. I was looking for this solution. I'm so happy that you called me about it. And I was just there, like, looking at my piece of paper above me. And I'm like, it came true. There's no way this thing came true. Now, I didn't manifest it into reality. It's just like, now I was open to seeing a new way of looking at things. I was open to seeing people actually be excited to be cold calls, especially when you bring them a solution that they want, right? Which is a whole conversation for another day. For me, the first thing I had to do was assume the opposite of what I believed about cold outreach. Assume that it wasn't scammy, that people actually wanted to hear from me. Assume that, people were going to be excited to be cold called. Assume that people would buy because I cold outreach to them. And then I acted as if that was true. And I held myself, not just acted, I held myself and thought that this was true. And therefore, when it did happen, I associated it with a belief that I had. And guess what? If the opposite happened, I would disregard it. I'd be like, this is rare. I used to get so many F-offs on the phone and so many people just going, not interested, and then hang up on me straight away. I ended up kind of thinking to myself, well, the belief I have is kind of not true. Like, people aren't excited to be cold called. I just got 20 no interested in a row. But then I told myself, no. These are just, this happens sometimes, doesn't happen all the time. 99% of people are excited to be cold called by me. I'm going to go find those 99%. And guess what? Guess what that makes you do? That makes you pick up the phone and cold call. But this isn't just about cold calling. This is about cold DMs, cold email, everything that you send out in terms of cold outreach. You have the negative beliefs. And most people believe it ruins their reputation, especially if you've already got some sort of following. Okay. And I remember speaking to some guy who's really big in this Muslim niche. He didn't even want to outreach to people. It's like, well, he's like, well, I think it'll just ruin my reputation. Like, what do you mean it'll ruin your reputation? This is like, you believe it'll ruin your reputation. I've had people excited to be outreached by me because I believe people are going to be excited to be outreached by me. I send tens and tens and tens. Well, I send hundreds a day, I'm pretty sure, in terms of outreaches in our systems altogether. Just from my accounts, with my name, with my followers. And the reason I do that is because I don't believe it's going to ruin my reputation. And because I don't believe it's going to ruin my reputation, the way I do outreach doesn't ruin my reputation. I'm not sending people paragraphs of annoying stuff that they don't care about. I'm sending them messages they actually care about. So the first thing to do is generally challenge that belief and use what I call the AAA framework: assume, act, associate. Assume a certain belief, act as if that belief is true, and then associate what you get from acting, right, and your action. This is a really key thing. Because you acted a certain way, you have to be like, well, if this wasn't true, then I wouldn't act this way, and therefore it backs up the belief, right? So you wait until the result and the action to associate. Sometimes you'll go through a little dry period, by the way, where it takes you a couple of weeks of assuming it to be true for you to actually start taking action naturally, but it will happen bidnillah. Now, the second way to actually make cold outreach fun, I'm going to jump on my laptop to show you, but it's basically gamifying the entire process. I'm going to show you how I do it on my laptop in a second, but I gamify the entire process. Just like in video games, which I was really addicted to, by the way. I used to play 12 hours of video games a day after I finished my A-level exams. I remember in the summer, the first thing I did was like, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to make some money. I ended up getting a job that I worked 12-hour shifts and everything, but because it was 12-hour shifts, I only was allowed 3 shifts a week. So basically it was like Friday, Saturday, Sunday that I would work, and then the rest of the days I had off. Guess what I would do for those 12-hour days that I had free? Like, I'll just be playing games. I'll just be playing Destiny 2, which is like a role-playing game, like in space or whatever. And then I'd be playing Call of Duty Warzone all the time. Like, I would just be playing games every single day. And I remember reflecting on this when I quit. I quit like 3-4 years ago now. I remember when I was reflecting, like, how am I going to quit? The games are just so fun. Like, I get a reward for playing a game. I get a reward for having things be easy. And I remember to myself, the whole thing that made me addicted to COD was the points that I get. The points that I get in regards to killing people and being top of the leaderboard. The points that I get in regard to like being able to unlock new items. Same with Destinies. Like, I was doing the same activity, by the way. Like, I was grinding the same activity, just like you do with outreach. You're literally grinding the same activity. I was in a corner grinding the same people that kept spawning in for 3 hours. 3 hours. It's basically the same as cold calling. You're spawn killing people who are joining the cold call, right? But for me, what I had to realize at the time was the points is what I cared about. The rewards is what I cared about. Because games reward you quickly. They quickly reward you. They're like, okay, cool, you finished this game. Before you quit, let's get you into a new game. By the way, you got experience points for the game. Even if you didn't play very well, we've got you actually experience points. And like, there's no failing in video games. You die, you respawn. There's no failing. Whereas in real life, you take things so seriously that you end up feeling like you're failing, right? So how do we gamify this process? Well, I created like an 8-point framework, which is like you try and collect as many points in a day. I'll show you how to do it, like I said, in a second on my laptop. But the whole point of this was to allow myself to be like, okay, I've got 8 points now. I'm going to reward myself. Most people never reward themselves. Like, for example, you'll watch somebody like David Goggins, Charlie Morgan, Alex Hormozy. They never reward themselves for anything. But you never look on the other side of things. Russell Brunson, Ali Abdaal, so many other entrepreneurs reward themselves for the like activities that they're doing. They reward themselves with spending time with their family, their loved ones, doing things they love. Like Ali Abdaal still plays video games, right? I personally don't because I don't want to anymore. But for me, the main thing I need to tell you this directly is that just because you reward yourself does not mean you're going to be unsuccessful. Just because you reward yourself with something that might not be super good for you doesn't mean you're going to be unsuccessful. So feel free to play outreach. Play outreach like a video game. You do the activities, you get rewarded. You do the activities, you get rewarded. You do the activities, you get rewarded. And you can grind, you grind till you get that first meeting, you get that first close. It becomes fun once you look at it as a video game. You look at it as just you collecting points and XP points. So let's jump into quickly my laptop. I'm going to show you the sheet that I use. And by the way, if you want access to the sheet, I will leave a link in the description so you guys can get access to it so you can use it. But I'm going to get you hyped up about the sheet first. Like, this is amazing. This made me, by the way, love cold calling. I was somebody who hated cold calling. This made me love cold calling and cold outreaching. And my goal at that point was not to book meetings, it was just to get those points, which became fun. It became really, really fun. So let's jump in. Okay, so this is my gamified outreach system. And I used to use this all the time, right? But the reason I wanted to show you this is because for me, what I would try and do is aim to get 8 points per day, right? At least 8 points per day. So for me, that was either sending 10 DMs, so 80 per day if I could, having one live conversation from a cold call, because for me, having the live conversations is what helped me get into the groove of things, improve my pitch, improve my opener, improve the things I was doing in cold calling. So I wanted to reward myself for the activity of just talking to somebody. If I send cold emails personalized, same with the DMs, like it has to be personalized, right? Then it's having those 8 sent. Having a meeting, like I actually set a meeting, I booked a call, bam. Opportunity created. So this is, sometimes people will get confused about this one, but for me, I also wanted to have those conversations that was somebody saying to me, hey, this sounds really cool. I can't book a meeting just yet, but call me back next week. That for me was opportunity created. Now, the most important one, which you might be surprised to see here, is 30 minutes of real self-development. Let's say you've got a Kindle. I got one recently, I'm so happy about it. Let's say you got a Kindle. Like you reading a book for 30 minutes, you meditating, reading Quran, doing all these things that help your self-development for 30 minutes, that counts as 1 point. So you could technically spend 4 hours a day doing self-development and win the game. Even though it's got nothing to do with outreach, it's going to help you in that process, right? So I'd put in the date, and then whatever the date would be per, so for example, this is per 10 DMs, right? I'd have it there, correct conversation, bam, I'd be happy about that with the conversation, put it there. And then per 8 emails, setting a meeting, setting an opportunity, and then the self-development. For me, the main priority, like I said, was just to collect the points. So I'd spend the day trying to send as many DMs as I can. I send 20, bam, that's 2 points. I've had one conversation on cold calls, okay, but at least I sent, how many did I did 24, let's go. So I've got 3 points now. I didn't set any meetings. Damn it, I didn't set any meetings. I didn't create any opportunities. So now I look at my day and I think to myself, well, what can I do? Because I've got only 6 points. I need 2 more points. Well, I can send more DMs, but I can't really. Okay, let me do more cold calls. I pick up the phone, I do more cold calls. I end up having 3 other conversations, and I'm at 4, and I'm at 9 points. And obviously I'm winning. But this is the point where like I start wanting to become more competitive with myself. I'm like, okay, I can get 10 points now. Okay, well, let me read a book for half an hour. Bam, I'm at 10 points. Maybe you end your day there. You're like, I'm finished, I'm going to go watch YouTube, I'm going to go play video games, I'm going to go do whatever I want. Reward yourself at the end of this. Generally, reward yourself at the end of it, right? And then bam, 10 DMs the next day. Let's say you do 50 DMs, right? And then you end up having 3 conversations on the phone, and then you don't do anything else. Bam, 8 points, you win. It's that simple. And if you do have a day where you do 0, you do less than 8, then obviously you mark it as red. And this is the really cool thing about this, with the colors and everything. For me, I look at it, I'm like, oh, damn. 10, 8, 0. Oh, I can't have it be red again. I've got 2 more days. I want those days to be green. like your brain is wired to enjoy this thing. Right? I've structured it in a way, and I use this guy's help he's like a master cold caller. I've structured it in a way where you will fall in love with the entire process. You will generally fall in love with trying to get these points because of the reward that you give yourself at the end. So bear that in mind. This is literally the two-step framework that I use. Like I rewire my beliefs, and then after I rewire my beliefs, I end up making it a game. I make outreach a game. And if you want this exact like framework, this outreach system that I've got, like I said, it's in the top of the description. It's like going to come with a little video of me explaining the details of how to use it. This is just like a little thing that I wanted to show you. But just gamify the whole thing. You don't have to use this, by the way. You don't have to use what I've got in front of me. You can just reward yourself. You do 10 cold calls. Reward yourself. Go do another 10. Reward yourself. Go do another 10. I used to use dark chocolate as a little reward for me because it's like healthy and I like it. So I've had other people do crazy rewards like just taking the day off, spending time with family, watching a Netflix series, whatever it is. Reward yourself with whatever you genuinely want. It can't just be random. Whatever you genuinely want, you can reward yourself with. So, bidnillah, you found this useful. Inshallah khair. And I'll speak to you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Actually, before you go, do you know what? If you're curious about some of the methods that I got, so I'm going to show you the LinkedIn method first, the DM method that I use. That's booked me over 150 calls every single month. Feel free to click the end of the video here. It's going to pop up at some point. I'll also put it maybe in the description. You're going to find out how you can make personalized DMs that are fun to make now that you're going to be able to gamify them. And bi-idhnillah, book you loads of meetings. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.